Hi everyone, welcome to my channel if you're new here, welcome back to my channel if you're a returning viewer or subscriber. So I have just filmed my winter book recs video, but in today's video I'm going to be recommending a bunch of books that I read really quickly. This is along the lines of the whole end of the year thing, racing to meet our Goodreads goal. I actually set myself a really low one this year, so I've already got to it, but I know the feeling of the December binge, trying to read as many things as possible. Usually December is a massive reading month for me. I read like 10 books because I'm desperately trying to reach this unachievable goal. Not all of these are short books, but they're all books that I read very quickly. However, they're not books that I think that I was unique in having read quickly. I think that all of these have reasons why you could read them quickly too. Let me quickly run through these books because you need to go spend some time reading. So the first book I have to mention is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn and Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid's books. I've got on well with basically all of them, but this is my most favourite. Maybe it's like in joint first place with Malibu Rising, but this is the book that I probably read the quickest out of all of her titles. This is not a short book, let's see, just under 400 pages, but it's so addicting. It's honestly like a little bit like a thriller in terms of like the level of engagement I had in the story. There's this mystery plot line. I wanted and I needed to know the outcome. I read like 100 pages in the bath, which is quite unusual because usually a bath seems like a really nice idea and then you get in there for like 5 seconds and you're like, get me out. That was not the case. I was so engrossed in my story. So we're following a reporter who is interviewing Miss Evelyn Hugo, who is this world famous Hollywood actress in the golden age of cinema, and we're basically trying to find the scoop on why she had 7 husbands and the story behind that, what happened with those marriages, like what caused them to form, why did she bother getting married, and ultimately what caused them to fall apart. There's this massive plot twist at the end of the story because the reporter is in some way linked to Evelyn Hugo, and you find out the reason for that and like how they are linked, and it's just so bingeable, readable. I think if you have this on your shelves, you're yet to pick it up, then I would definitely recommend this one. I reckon you could get through it in honestly a couple of days just by how addicting it is to read. Next up I have The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I read this quickly the first time, but I also read it very quickly on the reread, and that is because the format of this book is honestly like a middle grade. Even though it looks like a long book, we've got a very big font. It's a story you're probably all familiar with anyway because you've most likely seen the movie. There's also been a massive Hunger Games resurgence, which is the reason why I particularly wanted to mention this now in this particular video in this particular year, because of the release of the film of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the prequel book that was written after the series. So now's the time to read this book if you haven't already. Now's the time to reread it if you haven't read it in like 10 years. If you read the book when it first came out. I love the reread, honestly. I felt the exact same as I felt when I first read the book. It's topical and the writing's very simple and everything like that. Great characters. 10 out of 10 recommend. Again, not a short book, but don't fret because we're going to be mentioning some very soon. And by very soon I mean right now. Things I Don't Want to Know by Deborah Levy. This is a little tiny book, 150 pages. Aside from that though, it is made up of separate sections. So we've got, I think there are 4 little short stories. The first one is 42 pages. This is the first book in a trilogy, in this living autobiography trilogy by Deborah Levy, which is basically like about her life. It reads like it's fictionalized. It's not like as kind of dense as a normal non-fiction account of someone's life. The first story in particular was my favourite. That was like a 5-star read for me, but overall this was a 4-star. But I pretty much loved every second of it and I found it very easy and very quick to get through. It's got huge margins and the font's very big, so you might be able to sneak this one in before the end of the year. Plus, it's great. Some of the writing is very profound. Some very interesting themes discussed. I very much enjoyed it. Deborah Levy is just a fantastic writer and she writes a lot about kind of the craft of writing and her inspiration and admiration for it. So if that's something you are interested in, if you're an aspiring writer yourself, then this could be an interesting one for you. Turtles All the Way Down by John Green is a YA book, therefore naturally quicker to get through than the average adult book. The other thing is that this could be a fun one because if you read this as like your final book of the year, it's always exciting to read something that like, well, first of all, something that you really love right at the end of the year. But the other thing is that John Green, we think we all know him, but this book is such a different tone from the rest of his work. I read a couple of his works and they've all felt a little bit kind of pretentious and all been following like a particular kind of narrative style. Even as a teenager, I didn't particularly mesh with very well, but Turtles All the Way Down felt like such a breath of fresh air. It's also got this mystery plot line, so any mystery thriller I feel like is good for this time of the year because you're naturally going to want to pick it up because you need to find out what happens. It is around 300 pages, just under, and it's very enjoyable. It's about this boy whose father goes missing and you follow this girl who he's friends with, and there's like a little friendship, little romance thing forming between them, and then you obviously have the mystery line of the father and the whole family history because the father is like a billionaire. It's very much a hot topic in the news as well, but I very much enjoyed this read. This was one of my favourite books of the year I read it. Shatter by Tara Maffey is the first book in this series that so many people absolutely adore. I love this first book. This was a 4.5-star read for me. A little bit like Turtles All the Way Down. It felt like such a breath of fresh air. I had so much fun. It felt unique. It felt refreshing. I'm basically just using synonyms, but such a fun dystopian read. We're following Juliet, who has lethal touch. It means that anyone she interacts with either becomes very sick, or in some extreme cases they can die. But Juliet has no idea what's going on. It's set in this dystopian world. She's been really isolated most of her life because of her ability. In that way it's kind of readable because you want to find out more about the world. Then the other way it's also just written in a very kind of like different writing style, but one that was very easy to get through. A very short little read, and it's just bingeable basically. I feel like every single person I've spoken to about the series has found them very quick to get through. In my opinion, the series definitely goes downhill as you go along. This first book I would recommend. I still would even recommend this if this was the only one that you read. I honestly read it within like a couple of days and I had a lot of fun. I have 2 books by Miss Sally Rooney, Conversations with Friends and Normal People. Normal People is definitely the book that I read the quickest. I read like 150 pages in the first evening. I just got so hooked. I was so in love with our characters. We're following Marianne and Connell, who are 2 people who come in and out of each other's lives, but they always kind of like have this bond and this closeness that kind of exists throughout the entirety of their teenage years into their young adult, kind of at university age. I love this book. This is a 5-star read for me. I just connected with it so well. Very short. And then Conversation with Friends. Enjoyed this less, but I still read it very quickly. I think Sally Rooney just has a writing style that's very kind of easy to get through because she's kind of very blunt and to the point. She doesn't have very flowery writing or anything like that, and she writes people as though they're real, as though she's writing not even non-fiction, but like as though she's telling you an account of something that actually happened without the kind of clunkiness and the disjointedness of non-fiction. I love her writing basically. I'll read everything she writes, but yeah, these are the 2 ones that I've definitely kind of got through the quickest. I'm halfway through Beautiful World, but I definitely read these ones a lot quicker than I'm getting through that one. But yeah, if I'm going to recommend any of her work, Normal People, Sally Rooney though. Also a good author because people either love her or they hate her. You could just DNF her early days and then find something that you could whiz through if she was not your style. I probably should mention this earlier, but I have got another TJR book. I've got Daisy Jones and the Six. I read this book so quickly and it's 100% to do with the format of it. It's told in like an interview style format, so we've got the names of the characters and then the line that they're saying, which means that there's not actually many words on the page about this band in the 70s and kind of the rise and fall of them, and so you don't know why they fall apart. The way it's told, because it's like these interviews, it feels like you're watching some like, I'm gonna say true crime, that's not what I mean, some documentary about this band. It feels like it's following this narrative of this point where it's gonna peak and then suddenly things are gonna go downhill and you're gonna find out everything that went wrong. It reads a little bit like gossip, in other words. No matter how you feel about that, you can't deny that there's a part of our nature as humans that just is naturally interested in that. Daisy Jones, good read, really good read. Plus there's a TV show, so you can always race through this one and then watch the TV show afterwards. The first being Wallflower is another YA book. This one actually is classed as a modern classic. It's kind of fun to say you've read a modern classic, even though it took you like 2 days to get through. We're following Charlie. It's just a very well written book. It's very brief. It's just over 200 pages. Charlie's just a sweetheart. I just was so engaged in this book. This was definitely one that I kind of like Normal People, and that like I just was enjoying myself so much that I wanted to pick up the read. And I don't know a single person who's disliked this book, so you might feel the same way. It's about Charlie. It's about him kind of starting to fit in with people at school. There's this big kind of traumatic event in Charlie's past which we slowly uncover throughout the read. He's one of my favourite era characters and I'm sure you'll grow to love him too. Just a couple more to mention. First of all, Simple Passion by Annie Ono, my favourite read of this year. I gave this book 5 stars, obviously. It's like a 6-star read though. Yeah, this is a piece of translated French fiction by Annie Ono. It's a kind of... what is the word I'm trying to find? It's a merging of fiction and non-fiction. So it is about a true account that happened in Annie Ono's life. It's an affair that she had with a married man. I hate affairs personally, but she just wrote this in a way that was so engaging, particularly reading it as a woman, about the kind of like desperation to be desired, conflicting with this thing of like holding her own within a relationship when she's doing it in secret and when she's doing it at the control of this man who very much is domineering over this space. You know, these 2 women in his life, and particularly over Annie as someone who's just there for one thing for him. It was a very kind of difficult read, but also really interesting one. Very profound, very engaging. Loved it. There was something about that I just very much loved. The good thing for you is that it is 48 pages. You could literally read this in an afternoon. I read it across a couple of days. The minute I realised how much I was enjoying it, I wanted to drag it out. This could be like literally a December 31st read because it is so short and wonderful. I just adore Annie Ono. I definitely need to read more of her work. It's kind of unacceptable I haven't yet. And then finally we have this poetry collection, but pretty much just wanted to say poetry collection in general because poetry collections and graphic novels, little short reads and short stories and things like that, that is the perfect way to reach your Goodreads goal. They're all so short. This one is how many pages? 89, but the poems are tiny and some of these pages are just pictures. This is On Sun Swallowing by Dakota Warren, who is actually a content creator here on YouTube. I truly love this collection. I'm very fussy with poetry, but this one was one of my favorites. It's about everything: life, love, death, heartbreak, the female experience, the male gaze, family, friendship, It's just got it all. I literally read this in an evening, so again, perfect. Perhaps with the poetry collection it's better to kind of like read it all in one go and then go back and like read it at a slower pace, but even then this would take you like less than a day to get through. So I do recommend this book particularly, but poetry collections in general. And that concludes the video and gives you every single book that I've picked from my shelves. And if you haven't read any of them, I think they'd be fun to read before the end of the year if you're trying to chase your Goodreads goal, or you just want to read more books, because we've got so many books to read. Why not pick ones up that you could just get through really quickly? If any of these have been on your radar, then I'm here to confirm that they are in fact both quick reads and very good ones as well. That's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up to let me know that you did, and I'll see you very soon in a couple of days for another video. This will also be my final video before Christmas, so happy Christmas if you celebrate. I hope you have a lovely time with your family and friends, or by yourself, whatever Christmas means to you. I hope you have a great one. Sending my love to you, and yeah, happy reading.